Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes, and for the second day in a row, Missouri state and local officials have taken to the microphones to talk about their preparations for the moment that everyone in Metro St. Louis is waiting for. The grand jury's decision whether or not to indict police officer Darren Wilson in the shooting death of Michael Brown, an unarmed 18-year-old. Earlier today, just hours before a call with Attorney General Eric Holder, St. Louis Mayor Francis Slay and County Executive Charlie Dooley spoke to the public, echoing much of what Governor Nixon said yesterday.
Violence is not a constitutionally protected right. Damaging property is not constitutionally protected. Inciting violence that is an immediate threat is not protected by the Constitution. We will not tolerate any of it.
Even as Mayor Slay warned against violence, County Executive Dooley emphasized it is not a foregone conclusion.
You're assuming that something's going to go wrong. I'm assuming that things are going to go right. This is a great place to live. People are very civilized. They're going to do the right thing for the right reason. The majority of our constituency are good people. They want law and order. Why would I think anything different?
Almost all the coverage of Ferguson has focused on the question of the protesters, largely African-American from the St. Louis metro area and other places, who are angry about what they view as police misconduct and the shooting death of an 18-year-old boy. Far less attention has been paid to the ripples of discontent and, frankly, racist backlash that you can find on social media pretty easily. Many gunshots in the area are reporting a spike in sales, and now the traditionalist American Knights of the Ku Klux Klan are sensing an opportunity, distributing flyers around the St. Louis area that read, quote, "Attention to the terrorists masquerading as peaceful protesters. You have awakened a sleeping giant. The good people of St. Louis County of all races, colors, and creeds will not tolerate your threats of violence against our police officers, their family, and our communities. We will use lethal force as provided under Missouri law to defend ourselves." Joining me now is Frank Ancona, Imperial Wizard and president of the Traditionalist American Knights of the Ku Klux Klan. Frank, where are you distributing these flyers? What are people's reception to them?
Well, these flyers are being distributed across St. Louis County and other areas in Missouri. And the reception, for the most part, has been very good to these flyers. You know, and a lot of what I just heard right before you brought me on here was the police, you know, saying basically the same thing. They're not going to tolerate any violence, and that's what this flyer is addressing. It kind of came about from the hundreds of calls we've been getting from residents of St. Louis County concerned with things that they're seeing on social media about random attacks on whites, you know, DC sniper style type shootings. You know, there police officers being threatened that their wives are going to be raped, and you know, that they're all targets. You know, so all these calls are coming to us, and people saying, you know, what should we do? What should we do?
Well,
and
what you're telling them to do is arm themselves. But you, it's a bit ironic for you to talk about how bad violence is when you are telling people that you are going to arm yourself and shoot. You're advising people of what the law is for being able to shoot someone. That seems to everyone, I think, seeing this, like incitement. It seems like you are attempting to bring about the exact same thing that you're saying you're against.
No, actually, it's addressing the people who are making these terroristic threats, you know, and letting them know that the people of Missouri, they have rights too that are guaranteed under our Constitution and this particular law, and it's basically educating them on that law, letting them know what their options are, because a lot of people seem to not. You know, they're living in fear, and, you know, you don't have to sit back and let somebody throw a Molotov cocktail at you and just sit there and take it.
Do you actually think someone's going to...
There's remedies under the law.
Do you think...
And if you read, if you
and
actually
the remedy
read
under the law,
this
the remedy
flyer,
under the law is to shoot someone?
The flyer says,
Frank?
if you read it, says defend. It talks about defense. So in order to defend yourself, that means you're being attacked. So this flyer is not inciting violence. It's talking about defending yourself.
Do you think it contributes to the safety of the folks in St. Louis to go around distributing these kinds of flyers? Do you think this is making the situation better?
Definitely, as I've heard from many people, that they feel much better that, you know, this flyers went out and they understand what their options are under the law.
Have you been talking to law enforcement?
I have.
What are those conversations?
And,
like?
you know, well, depending on who you talk to, and of course, you know, all these things are off the record, but a lot of them are very frustrated with, you know, how the governor has basically sided with the criminals in a lot of instances.
Wait a second, you have law
they
enforcement.
have to stand there and
Frank,
get bottles of.
You have law enforcement talking to you off the record,
thrown at them.
confiding in you as a grand wizard of the KKK. You're telling me that you have local law enforcement talking to you personally off the record?
I'm telling you, I have friends who know people in law enforcement. I'll just put it that way.
Yeah.
And right. And anyway, you know, why should they be expected to sit there and be told that somebody's gonna go rape their wife? What job? How can you expect someone to do a job and put up with that? That, to me, that is a threat of violence against their family member.
Lots of things get said on
and they
social
should be
media.
able to respond to that.
Thank you, Frank Encana. Joining me now, Liz Brown, columnist at the St. Louis American and criminal defense attorney. Liz, this seems to be the reason I wanted to have Frank on, and it's not something I really like doing, is that there is this kind of there's ripples of something dark and ugly that I've started to see in social media around folks in the St. Louis area that I worry about in advance of what's coming down the pike. And so much of the attention has been on, quote, the protesters getting violent. And it doesn't seem to me that the ugliness is necessarily coming from those quadrants, or certainly not from those quadrants exclusively.
Well, I think that what we really have to have a discussion about, Chris, is who sets the tone? What tone has been set? And I would charge that the tone has been set that would allow for a racist organization like the Klan to feel comfortable in recruitment. And what is the tone that's been set? The tone is that the tone that has been set is that African American, largely peaceful African American protesters and activists need to have a response, a military response to them. It's almost like they've taken a page and twisted it out of The Untouchables, where he says that, you know, if you bring a rock, we'll bring a tank. That's the response that has been to the largely African-American protesters. So you set the tone that these are people that we need to respond to in this type of way. When you have a chief of police in St. Louis that's racially profiling people that commit crimes as black on black crime, what does that tell? What is that saying? That's saying that crime has a face, and the face is an African-American face, and you don't have to worry about the crime because it's just black folks hurting other black folks. So when we set the tone that a certain group of people responds in this lawless type of way, and that we have to respond to them in a militaristic type of way, you open the door for an organization, a racist organization like the Klan, to come in and take advantage of that.
So you think the way that the tone that has been set by officials so far, who have been, by what they're saying, I'm going to talk to Chief Dotson in just a moment, they're saying they are trying to be calm, they're trying to urge people to be peaceful, that just to follow their First Amendment rights, to not use violence. What is wrong? Well, you think they're sending a tone of suspicion?
Well, let's unpack the governor's response, or the governor's press conference. 1,000 people. Why are you saying 1,000 people? What you can take out of that is that that's what we need to respond to peaceful protesters. Protesters haven't shot and killed anyone. Protesters haven't harmed people. So why are we responding to them? Because it's these types of protesters. You're setting the tone that these types of people need to be responded to in this way. And that opens the door for the Klan to go in and to recruit people. Right. I lay it at the feet of law enforcement, how they've prosecuted this case, how they've responded to peaceful protesters. I lay it at their feet. This is their fault.
Liz Brown, thank you very much. And joining me now is St. Louis Police Chief Sam Dotson. Chief, we'll respond to Liz Brown about the tone that's been set by local law enforcement and the tone that you're trying to set in the announcement with the mayor and Charlie Dooley today.
Well, I think the tone here in St. Louis is one that we're working on bridging gaps. While lots of people are talking, we're actually sitting down with organizers of protesters trying to come to common ground. We've talked about what the rules of engagement are. We've talked about a variety of things. So I think there's a lot of dialogue that's going on at a very grassroots level. I think that's important.
You know, I got to say that there's this expectation that you can sort of feel brewing in the air, and I think probably the press plays part of that. But it's not just the press. I mean, Governor Nixon coming out and saying we've got the National Guard on standby. You know, at what point do you enter into a kind of vicious cycle where there's this sort of self-fulfilling nature to the whole thing, where you've got folks like the Grand Wizard of the Klan distributing flyers and people in gun shops saying this has been good for business, and everybody fearful that something will happen, and that itself creating the conditions for something ugly to happen?
Well, I think you're absolutely right. And I think the first guest didn't help the conversation and the dialogue at all that's going on in here in St. Louis. But I think the governor's tone was, we are going to protect people. We're going to keep people safe. We're going to protect property. And we're also going to protect the constitutional rights of people that want to come out and have their voices heard. The conversation about the National Guard, if the governor does decide to activate the National Guard, it's to help support local law enforcement. It's not to take the front line. It's to allow us to do our jobs better. I think that's what gets lost in the conversation. I see your tagline, preparing for war. Actually, in St. Louis, we're preparing for peace. We're trying to get to that point.
You know, you say that, but, you know, we know that there's $172,000 spent on things like tear gas and strange kind of cluster grenade tear gas devices from St. Louis County. That quote comes directly from a family member of Michael Brown. That's why it's in quotation marks there. There are people who feel that the remarks of the governor, the data that was acquired by The Guardian about the preparation in St. Louis County, feels to them more like there is preparation for war. And obviously, you can only control the police department you can control, but we're talking about a lot of police and law enforcement agencies across the whole metro region.
But I think you have to look at it in context. We have a responsibility to keep people safe. That's our #1 goal. We have a responsibility to protect property. We have a responsibility to protect people's constitutional rights. So the equipment purchases that are happening are to further those endeavors. They're not to go out and to go on the offensive. It's actually just the contrary. If you look at what's happened over the last several months, we've done an unbelievable job of keeping people safe, both on the law enforcement side and on the protester side. That's really what this investment is about. So to characterize it as an offense is not correct at all. Really what it is the tools that we have to keep us all safe in our community.
So, Chief, what have you learned? I mean, what have you learned of watching this play out? Obviously, there have been protests both in North County. They've been all over Metro St. Louis. They've been in the heart of St. Louis. Your police have interacted with protesters. What have you learned?
I think what we've learned is exactly what the governor said and the mayor and the county executive. Hey, we have lots of areas to grow. Jobs, for example. The governor announced a program for 2,000 in jobs. We're talking about a lot of things. So what I've learned is the dialogue is the most important thing that's happening. What I've learned is that we have to work at a very grassroots level. This has become about law enforcement's interaction with the community. There's a lot of room for improvement, a lot of room for improvement on both sides. And that's the dialogue that has to continue. The noise that we hear about preparing for war and the equipment purchases, that really needs to take a backseat. What needs to happen are organized groups from the protester side need to sit down with government officials on our side and really say, how are we going to move this region forward? How are we going to continue the dialogue? The grand jury ultimately will make a decision. Regardless of what that decision is, we still have a community here. We have to move this community to a more positive place. That's what the dialogue is. That's what I've learned.
Do you know what the grand jury's decision is?
No, I don't. And I wake up every morning to a text or a tweet that says that it's coming out. The only people that know that are the grand jury, and they haven't, as far as I know, have not made a decision yet.
Chief Sam Dotson of St. Louis, thank you very much for your time, sir. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you.